I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is King Gizzard and the...
The Wheel. What?
The Lizard Wizard. The well, one is King Gizzard's a funny band. And two, I was just thinking about a sermon I heard from Farrakhan about the wheel and spaceships and all the rest of it. Anyway, for timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. We just really, it's uploading literally as we speak right now. The latest. So check that out, Middle America with Vin and Sori. There's also an appearance by the great DL Beluga, which should interest many of our followers, and my partner in crime just got up and left. So if you, dear listener, would like your song reviewed, it's pretty simple. All you have to do, $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You join an alliance, and you pull your points together, and that helps determine what songs we review. Or if you're a filthy capitalist like Sori, or if you don't want to be part of a group, you want to go Ronin style, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You do that 3 times, you get down to the $75 rate, which, who is this for?
This is for the big homie Gabe.
Gabe has done a couple King Gizzard songs, right? So he must be at the $75 rate. Also, patrons. It's the end of the month now, or the beginning of the month, so that's when Patreon starts doing their deductions. So if you meant to cancel your subscription, just reach out to Sori. You don't need to send a screenshot or anything like that, and we'll make up that difference for you. Having said that, it is time. The Wheel, King Gizzard and the Lizard. Is this live?
I didn't think so. Ready?
Yep. Go! Very jazzy.
Thank you.
Nicely done. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard live here in the KEXP studio.
Huh.
Wasn't King Gizzard the one with the thing where the universe ate itself and it was all nauseous and it threw up and everything?
Oh, gosh.
Wasn't that the
I
band?
don't remember. Yeah, actually. What was the name of that?
I forgot the name of that record. That's why I said, like, they're a funny band. But, let's see, all albums by... Man, they've done a lot of records. Holy moly. We first got introduced to them. I'm pretty sure that's them. But anyway,
I'm looking.
so I was expecting it to be funny, because the other one was kind of funny.
Murder.
Hand to Yumi it was.
And the murder of the universe.
Yeah. So, Hand to Yumi, which was an anagram for humanity or whatever. Okay, so I was expecting it to be kind of funny, but this song actually, it seemed like it was serious, like they were really saying something. To me.
The sound was like,
It was
Pink
jazz.
Floyd-ish. Like
Yeah.
like that trippy feel of Pink Floyd.
Trippy, Pink Floyd-ish, a little bit jazzy.
Speaking of which, I switched out the CD in the car, so
Oh, you did?
it's not going to jolt us anymore. It's going to be Pink
Is
Floyd
it Pink
now.
Floyd now? Oh, man. Okay, so we've been listening to Borknagar literally for the last 2 years.
But our SUV is like absolutely perfect. It has one flaw, and the one flaw is that if you were listening to the music, it's going to turn back on like seconds after you turn the car on.
Yeah.
So it's usually turned off really loud when we shut the car off. So we turn it on and it's like blaring in your ears. And it's like, yeah, it's scary. Orion was scared to go out to the car because I had done the electric start.
Oh,
I was like, no!
oh no! Oh no!
So he was talking about.
Anytime
every
I
time he
hear
brought up the
jazzy jumps
steering-
like that, though, I always get sad because when I first came to this country, I hadn't seen my mom. And I was back with my mom, so I'm like, oh, I'm with my mom, and then I had to go to school. And they put on Sesame Street, and every time on Sesame Street, there was this one little interlude with these like jazzy, cool drum type of things. But that's when I had to leave. So, I had to leave my mom and all that. I didn't know homeschooling was a thing, man. If I'd have known homeschooling was a thing, I'd have like really been like pushing my mom to homeschool me. That would have been paradise. I'd have never had to leave my mom. Holy moly.
She would have been a good teacher too. Smart lady.
Yeah, she would have been. She would have been a good teacher. All right. What were you saying?
Oh, every time
Did I take my vitamin?
I haven't seen you take it.
All right, good.
Every time, like when it was talking about the steering, for some reason, we only fall asleep willingly. Okay, for some reason, like it like mixed up in my head, and it reminded me of I fell asleep driving one time, like for like a split second. It was enough. I was so tired that a dream started, and that's the only reason why I know I fell asleep.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
And you made it home? Obviously.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. But anyway, so go ahead. You can go ahead. I really wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. I was just feeling the music. That one guy had a surprising voice.
And they had two drummers, right?
That's what you said. I didn't see it.
They did. They had one guy in like a pale yellow shirt and another guy in like a yellow t-shirt, but they were two different folks. We only sleep at the. I think the wheel is like maybe a metaphor of time.
Oh.
We
Yeah,
only sleep
yeah,
at the
I
wheel
thought
that
so, too.
steers us into the future. We only fall asleep willingly at the wheel that steers us into our future. Our minds unpack, muscles relax, we're superfluous and in a stupor. We only fall asleep willingly at the wheel that steers us into the future. So, I think that's like not being able to adjust. It's time, and people say times are changing and things like that, but we just kind of sit there and passively let stuff happen instead of like actively taking control of our own destiny, I think is the point. So you're basically, it's a pretty good metaphor. Asleep at the wheel, is a common term, but it's asleep at the wheel of like time and development and all the rest of it.
So when he says we only fall asleep willingly at the wheel that steers us into our future, is he talking about like people that just kind of like let life just kind of take them?
Yeah, I think he's talking about...
Instead of planning and making your future.
I think this is like the general...
Seize the day! Sorry.
It's a general disposition of humanity that we just kind of let stuff happen instead of, seizing the day and taking control of our own future. And then we are conscious of other things that are not really important Yeah, I just think people paying attention to ancillary things that are not really important, but the things that are really important, we're asleep at the wheel on, I think is what he's saying. And, you know, he might be right, but I think one of my resolutions is going to be, I'm going to take a break from, you know, a lot of the things that I was engaged in last year. Just because it's just, you know, it's just plain exhausting, some of it. So, like, I get what he's saying. Like, that's normally the, you know, and he talked about it, like, you know, we seek to retreat, you know, and it's like we fall asleep willingly, and he's talking about, you know, our minds unpack, our muscles relax. I think being in a environment with a 24-hour news cycle, and then having characters like a Donald Trump and things like that are always putting the temperature up to 10, you know, but you know, and then having, you know, life and death social issues like abortion or Medicare for all, or, you know, troop pull-out timelines and things like that. It's like you're constantly bombarded with these things. Like, I'm watching it's actually I'm more sad about it than anything, which is surprising to me. But so Jimmy Dore is trying to push this thing where they suspend the vote from Nancy Pelosi so that we could use that to force a vote for Medicare for all on the floor. And so it's a pretty radical idea. And then pretty much the entire progressive, you know, media outfit has now turned against Jimmy Dore. But the crazy thing is, like, the people are for Jimmy Dore, and obviously I'm one of them. But the janks of the world, the TYT, the Majority Report with that guy, I can't stand that guy anyway. And they're all going after Jimmy Dore, assassinating the guy's character, talking about he's doing this for the money. It was just insane stuff. And these are people that were like friends 4 years ago. Like, I don't really care much about TYT or Jank or I've never liked that the Majority Report, any of them. But they were all friends, right, you know, and so to see them turn on Jimmy Dore like that is like, it's just exhausting, man. it's one of the things that I, you know, sat back and did a lot of reflecting, you know, this second time around with having Raisa being able to just chill out and unplug for a second. Like,
that's our 6-week-old.
There's a lot of you know, really challenging things that are happening, and it really gets you to a certain point emotionally. And look, you know, like I tell the kids all the time, like, don't waste your emotions on dumb shit, right? So, like, yeah, if you're going to get mad about, you know, millions of your fellow Americans uninsured and people dying, that's what you should invest your emotion in. I just think it's just unnatural for a human being to be able to have to ingest all of that negative information that absolutely affects our future, for sure. But it's just, and I could see it with Jimmy Dore. Like, he's getting short, and he's always been a passionate guy, but he's just getting shorter and shorter and shorter because there's too much at stake, and people who are in privileged positions like Jenk and TYT, who doesn't have a healthcare issue, and if his wife had a healthcare problem, she would be completely fine, are sitting there and just calmly saying, well, we need to be more strategic, and Jimmy Dore's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is a moment to strike. And then they turn on him. But it's crazy because if you look at the comments section for all these people, even Majority Report, every single comment I read was supporting Jimmy Dore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, he has the support of the common people, and Jimmy has always been the voice of the common people. And I understand he's got a $2 million house and blah, 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 but the guy's been a comedian working in Comedy Central and all the rest of it. It's like I said in the other video, the fact that a person has money does not necessarily mean they're a bad person. He's fighting his ass off for 28 million uninsured Americans.
Right, yeah, he could be spending that for less taxes for for millionaires.
Well, shit, he could still be in the TYT network, you know, and he would be he was automatically the most popular guy there. I mean, he is the guy right now. You know what I mean? And so, like, it is very unassuming, but again, he's also, I can tell he's getting extremely short with everyone, and he's had it up to here. It's exhausting. It really, really is. You know, I you know, dealing with certain things, and something like there's certain things you just think are just so obvious, and people with their crazy, you know, for whatever reason. But the thing is one of the things I had to think about is like, well, people are dealing with their own issues, right? So like, I have the benefit of working from home and being home 24/7, so I can sit and read and research and know exactly what's going on with this type of thing. Let's say you put in a 12-hour shift, you came home, okay, you're going to turn on MSNBC or CNN and get your news. Like, I have an advantage of being able to look at things, you know, and cross-reference things and look things up. I just remember looking at myself being like, yo, can't you read? You're like, why can't you read? Or blah. It's like, well, wait a second, bro. Like, not everybody's in your living situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, how much research would you be doing if you had a 12-hour shift outside of work? Then you got to come home and, you know, tend to your family or whatever. So you got, what, 20 minutes to take a quick clip at a thing? Oh, so of course you're going to be influenced by that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, yeah. So I think, like, there's, like, these two extremes where, like, people are just, like, letting life happen to them, and where these major things are happening in our country and people are just like in autopilot. And then there's the other side of it where you're so engaged in it and you're so, you know, focused on the future and what's going to happen and things like that you end up, like, you know, kind of unraveling a little bit. So it's just like with everything else. I think it's a big balance, but that's what it said to me. Like, we're falling asleep willingly at the wheel that steers us into the future. It's like, these crazy things are happening and we're allowing for them, and people are just basically not doing much about it. The other thing was, like, the whole UFO thing in 2020. Like, our government said that there are spacecraft or aircraft in the sky that do not originate on Earth. That should have been the story of the year.
Right.
But we're just like, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, there's spacecraft, yeah. It's like, what? Like, they just didn't, I mean, if okay, so just logically speaking, what does that mean? Okay, that means it's a spacecraft, or it's an aircraft.
Yep.
Which, unless, I'm not going to go there, but nobody believes an explosion in a metal and a plastic factory created that thing. Obviously that means that it was designed, right? Well, if it was designed, but the thing doesn't originate on the Earth, either the Russians did it in some space station somewhere, which makes no sense, or there's extraterrestrial life capable of designing, and that they're intelligent. Like, that's massive. And nothing. Tucker Carlson.
No, that should be this big major thing.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson had a little 3-minute spiel on it, and then everybody just kept it moving. And I was like, I sent it to a couple people. They're like, oh wow. I'm like, okay, all right. We didn't even do a Middle America video on it. I had a Middle America video primed for it, and I don't know, some Trump thing happened, so that trumped the thing, and then it's like. It was just, 2020 was a strange year, man. It was a very, very strange year. I mean, I feel like 5 years ago, like, if they would have came out and said, yeah, it's not of this world, like, everybody would be, you know, it would be a crazy situation. Nobody cares. It's unbelievable.
What? Why 5 years ago?
Well, I just think because it was Obama. So
I see.
Trump just he just he's a singular personality, and he just dominates everything. There's help in need, seek to retreat, yet we decline without mercy, destroying all that will keep us heading for a better thesis. So I think that is them saying that, you know, there are people that come with a solution, you know, a better thesis, a better understanding of how we can all function as a society. But we don't want to hear it because I think it's gonna be too much work. So we decline without mercy. you know, like somebody's coming along, like I would say like a Bernie Sanders type figure, you know, and this was written in 2017, so it might have been a commentary on the Western, you know, situation that we're in politically speaking, where somebody has a better thesis, like, hey, how about we do Medicare for all so that we don't have this thing where you have 28-year-old kids dying of, you know, preventable issues like, you know, insulin, you know, shortage, and it's like, no, let's destroy that guy. You know, the right, I remember when Bernie was a front runner in 2020, the right was saying, you know, we've got 100 days till we vote out a socialist or whatever. It's like, you know, the Republicans were saying Bernie was this giant existential threat. Chris Matthews was saying that. He was basically comparing, when Bernie won Las Vegas, I think, he was comparing it to, you know, the brown shirts, and basically like Bernie's followers are gonna come up and execute us in the streets and all this crazy, like, like they completely assassinated. You know, Chris Matthews ended up losing his job eventually over it because he was like trying to make a comparison between, you know, Bernie supporters and Nazis, which is ridiculous because Bernie's Jewish and you don't cross those people. Because the minute he went there, he was gone. Say what you want. But the minute Chris Matthews has said a bunch of crazy shit for a very long time, the minute he made that comment, he was out. I was gone the next day. Do what you will with that. Yes, I said it. So yeah, to me, like all I could think about was Bernie. Was like, you know, here we are, everybody's cruising along, and then we just, you know, we allowed CNN and NBC, MSNBC, and all these other people to get our eye off the ball, to focus on the Russian nonsense, focus on Zelensky, so that we would not be outraged about what actually we should have been outraged about, which is what the Clintons did in 2016 to destroy Bernie politically so that they could anoint Hillary. That was, and it was indisputable fact. Like, it was indisputable fact that even New York Post ran stories on it. Like, they stole the election from Bernie. And immediately, the CNN, MSNBC, it was clearly purposeful. Russia, and everybody got caught up in it. Russia. Everybody's caught up in it. And then we completely were not focused on what actually had happened to us in 2016. So that's kind of how I looked at it, you know, like...
You gotta stop looking over there when they say, look over there.
Yeah, I just feel like Bernie had a much better plan for, or a vision for the country. And it was revolutionary. And it definitely would have reoriented our society in ways that probably none of us can anticipate. But that I was willing to try, because the eventuality of hundreds of thousands of people dying needlessly in our country it was unacceptable, you know. But you know, people are so afraid of change. I think that's the other thing too, is like one of the reasons that people just kind of float by and let life just happen to them is because they're afraid of change. They're afraid of transformation. So even if the current the current present is unacceptable, they would rather that than embrace a different thesis or a different way to live, because nobody can deny. You know, that's one of the things Elizabeth Warren got up there and said, no, you won't have to pay any new taxes. We do Medicare for all, which is a lie. Like, of course, and Bernie never lied about that. And none of us really knows what America's going to look like in that type of a context. But what I was saying was, let's try it, because we know what's happening currently is that people are dying needlessly. So that's kind of like what went through my... And again, this was released in 2017, so I'm like, maybe there was a lot of, that going into mine, you know? Again, muscles relax, we're superfluous and in a stupor, we only fall asleep willingly. Shivering pilgrims climb the steeper path to the idealistic reaper, destroying all that will keep us heading for a better thesis. So, I don't know, I'm thinking that they were just looking at the inauguration day, you know, the pilgrims. And I'm pretty sure it was a cold day that day. And then there you go. We hope to prosper. What can we offer? Our allegiance only suffers, destroying all that will keep us. Yeah, so again, it's like remaining loyal to a party or a political system that consistently destroys you economically. But you're going to remain loyal to it because, you know, you've been a lifelong Democrat or you've been a lifelong Republican, or your silly ass is going to vote for Biden if you're black because you thought that Trump was a racist. You're dumb as hell if you did that and you're black. So I just thought it was social and political commentary. I mean, I could be completely off.
No, that's exactly what it seems like.
But again, the better thesis. I think that's such a good line. The better thesis, like somebody has to come, because there's so many presuppositions that people have about society. And I think particularly with Americans, like Americans just think it's a fact of life that people just have to die if they don't have health care. They just think, them's the breaks, man, that's life. But in other contexts, like people, there was like this one video where...
You heard somebody say that?
Oh, 100, yeah, Ron Paul said it. He's like, what is this silly idea that we all have to pay for other people's health care? Like, come on, this is a free society, blah, blah, blah. Hardcore libertarians, they're all like that, you know? Them's the breaks. That's the real world. So... You know, I heard one guy say, okay, so if a guy loses his job and loses his house, should I have to go and pay for his house? Blah, blah, blah. So, like, that's the mindset, you know? So it's like, that's how they look at it, but then you see people from other countries and they're like, what? You guys do what? And you know, and it's the same thing with abortion. Like, if you go to some of these countries and you say, hey, this is what Americans do to babies, they're like, nobody does that. You know, I mean, shoot, most Americans can't even believe what we do to babies. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I've had to show people, like, oh, look, this is what happens. I just got done watching one. The guy's like, oh, nobody does a third trimester abortion unless it's, like, really life-threatening, life of the mother, yada, yada. It's ridiculous. The guy, you could tell, you could tell that the guy really believes that. He really, really believes it. He doesn't know that there are about... 6 states that have no gestational limits at all, and Dr. Hearn and all that. He doesn't know any of that stuff. You know, he just. But again, this is a situation where this guy's a regular guy who does not have the time to look at the nuances of all this stuff, and so this is the party line from Planned Parenthood and the left wing media. So he's just gonna ingest that and go, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, they don't know, and he says, the fetus is a potential
especially something
baby.
as outrageous as that. It's like.
Right.
I'm not going to research whether or not they're, I don't know, pouring cyanide into our chicken when we cook it. You know what I mean? Like, because that's so ridiculous. It's not happening.
Right.
Like,
it sounds so crazy.
Peru is not doing that, or Purdue is not doing that. But
right.
It's something like this. It sounds crazy that we would have no gestational limits and kill babies at any state, and some of the tactics and the things that they do is just absolutely horrible.
Right.
So, of course, you would think that...
He doesn't...
Why am I going to research something that's that ridiculous?
Right, exactly. And they really believe that fetus is something like different from a baby. They don't know that a fetus is just a baby after 8 weeks. Like, that's the actual definition. They don't know any of this stuff. And again, the guy's probably out there working. He's probably trying to dodge the pandemic, take care of his family. So he's just, okay, just tell me what to think about. Okay, good, boom. You know what I'm saying? So, like... the song is actually a pretty deep song to me, actually, because it really is kind of like, it gives you, at the same time, it gives you urgency and mercy for people at the same time. It's like, stop just sitting there idly by and letting this stuff happen. But at the same time, it's like, people are overloaded with too much tragic news, man.
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
That's kind of where I'm with it. All right. Well, what do you give the song?
9.6, actually.
Solid 9.3. Good song, very jazzy. It was serious, and it was really good social commentary. So there you are. Shout out to the big homie. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.